This week on the podcast, Sean, let's talk a little bit about the BBB or the OBBBB. The one big beautiful bill that obviously passed over July 4th. It's been a couple of weeks ago. You've had some time to digest. I know you've done some webinars, some things of that nature. So let's just kind of talk about a few of the myths that are still floating around. A lot of confusion for folks. See if we can kind of clear up a few things on this. Sure. You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah,
I'm doing great.
How was some of the training on this? Was it as confusing as the news media wanted to make it?
I mean, there's a lot in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot for individuals. There's a lot for businesses. There's a lot to unpack. There's some myths, some misconceptions. Some things that I think will be good. I think there's some things that'll be not so good.
Right.
But overall, at least we know now, and we can. Once we know what legislation is passed, we can usually start to put plans in place.
Yeah.
To follow this.
Yeah, that's one of the big takeaways, right? Just in general, by having the tax rates and everything stay the same for at least another 3.5-4 years, the whole permanent conversation, we'll get to that in a second, but at least that gives you guys planning, runway, right, to kind of work through things and say, okay, now we know what's going to be what for the next couple of years. So, but let's do a few myths here. It doesn't help when the IRS created the first one by sending something out and then not being actually factual with it. But Social Security is no longer taxed. Myth number one. What's the dealio?
That's a myth. Social Security is still going to be taxed. It's still going to be dependent on your income. That didn't go away. But what they did is for anybody 65 and older, they increased your standard deductions and exemptions.
Right.
So it helps a little bit, but they didn't remove taxation.
Yeah, so it's what, $6,000, or $12,000 for a married couple over 65, and it's really actually really on the lower income side of things if you think about it, because it starts to phase out at $150,000 of income, totally phased out at $250. So in a way, it's kind of like for those folks in that area, it is kind of removing Social Security taxation, but it's not gone. It's just this limited time deduction will help with that, right?
Yeah, Social Security is still taxed. It's all dependent, provisional income calculations, all that still stays the same. The only thing they're saying is that if you're over 65, you get an addition, and you're married, you get an additional $12,000 exemption.
Yeah, that's above the line. Yeah. Well, it kind of leads into myth two, really, which is the new law means tax cuts for everybody. And again, the funny thing about it, and I'm not trying to get political because we try to stay pretty neutral, but it's funny when a lot of the media kind of paints some of the picture as this being for wealthy. And a lot of some of the stuff early on, some of the big pieces of this bill actually do benefit lower income and middle income families. So like this one. Now, first of all, is this a myth or is this actual?
No, the SALT deduction increase, it's going to benefit high income earners, right?
The SALT part will, yeah.
Right. But a lot of the other benefits are built around lower income families to reduce their taxation. And, the average person making $100,000, we'll say, in 2026, had tax law not changed, or stayed to where it is currently, and it would have reverted back, they would have seen over $1,000 of increase of federal taxation to their tax bill.
Yeah. And so the new law, is not a tax cut for everybody, right? So it's not quite the deal. Again, we talked about the $6,000 for seniors. The SALT thing, I think that's when all that compromise stuff happens, right? That's when you get the senators from states or Congress people from states like California and New York and New Jersey that have really high property taxes saying, hey, give me a little something here. Right. So that's not going to benefit everyone, from that winds up doing itemization, because the standard deduction is really high right now, like this year. Like, it's going to be hard to get the standard deduction, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, you look, if somebody's $41,000 standard deduction and exemptions, that's a big deal. And in Utah, if you're making less than 90, your Social Security is no longer seen as taxable income. So there was some benefits within our state that, taxation on Social Security at the state level was removed, but once again, if your income level is under 90, that's going to affect you. So it's for the lower income earners that will get a little bit extra money in their pocket to help them.
Yeah. Well, let's do myth number 3. I mentioned it a minute ago. The tax brackets are permanent, so we no longer have to worry about things changing. What's your thoughts there?
Well, there could potentially be a brand new party in office in 3 years.
Right.
So, yeah, they're permanent. There's no end in sight until they're not.
Right. And that's where the language confuses people. Well, they're permanent. Right. Well, you and I think of permanent as like permanent, but in Washington, permanent means, well, and just until the next Congress does something.
Yeah. When the next administration comes in, if it's not a Republican administration, if it's a Democratic administration, and they have the votes to change it, they could potentially change it.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they will, but there's potential for that.
Yeah. And that's the difference between what would have happened, right? So the TCJA that we had been under was set to expire. They had given it a limit. It was going to expire at the end of 2025 and would have reverted back to, I believe, the Obama era administration tax
2017.
Code. Yep. Yeah. So now by making it permanent in the language, it just means it will take an act of Congress to change it. It won't expire like it would have before. So that's all that it means. It's just that funky language. So you still want to do tax efficiencies, tax planning, tax strategy is still on the radar, right, Sean? Because for the next 3.5 years, we know what the rates are. But in 4.5 years, 5 years, it could change.
Yeah, instead of turbocharging it to 2026 and changing it, now you've got at least you have another 3 years.
Yeah.
So,
and the reality is it takes them a while to do anything. So I'd even say 4, maybe 5. It'd take a new administration at least a year to get their ducks in a row.
I think so too.
Yeah. So, okay. And that's great for planners, right? From a planning standpoint, a lot about the big, beautiful bill, I think really helps you guys strategize. Yeah. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Well, it provides a framework where we understand what law is going to be, how we can strategically plan from a tax perspective. Do we do Roth conversions? Do we not? Some of those things that we do from a planning perspective on the tax side each and every day. Now, at least we have some clarity that we can say, all right, here's what we've got coming down the runway in the next 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
This is what the framework that we're going to build around that. After that, who knows? But at least we know right now, and we'll adjust as needed when the time comes.
Myth number 4, they rounded it off to $15 million per person. So $30 million for a married couple on estate planning. So I ain't got to worry about that because most of us aren't going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, estate taxes are a lot, right?
Yeah.
But the bulk of our assets in our country live in retirement accounts.
True.
And so those are going to be those do need some thought. Now, looking at, do I need to have an estate plan? Do I need to work with an estate planning attorney? I think estate plans are more about wishes than assets, in my opinion.
Fair.
So you look at, okay, what is our wishes? Our wishes are, I want the grandkids to be able to go to college. I want our kids to inherit some money. I want to, give money to charity, and I want it to happen in these different frames of time.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, I'll use my mom as an example. Second marriage. There's steps. I have step siblings. My mom has adopted my niece, and everybody is in different phases of life and different income levels of life.
Right.
So for them, an estate plan isn't about, I'm saving on taxes. For them, the estate plan is about, how do I make sure that our hard-earned assets follow our wishes? So that's not going to go away.
Well, and I think people will get hung up on the $15 million estate tax exemption thinking I'm never going to get there. That's federally. So don't forget that you still got to think about your state. Every state has got different estate tax, parameters.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So don't let the federal one kind of get you thinking, I'm never going to get to 30 million. So what do I care? Again, check with your state on that. And it's interesting one here. Myth number 5, because they made car interest loans deductible. So I've heard people say, oh yeah, it's fully deductible. Not quite.
Up to 10 grand.
Which is huge, but.
Yeah. I mean, if you're paying $10,000 a year in interest on a car, you have a nice car.
You got a nice car. Yeah.
That's a pretty nice car to be paying $800 a month in interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you've got to still meet certain income and certain vehicle criteria for it to work. It's not just like hey, here's $10,000.
Yeah, it's not a blanket write-off. Yeah. 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 But, so, and it's an interesting one. Obviously it was designed to help spurn the, some of that, build in America, because that's part of the provision. It needs to be, the majority needs to be assembled in America, which I'm not sure what the breakdown on the majority is, but that was an interesting verbiage. But either way, and then that with the reduction or the removal now by September 30th, they're going to get rid of the EV credit. So if you are close to retirement and a new car is on your radar, make sure you're talking with your advisor about that, because if you were thinking about an EV for the credit, that will be expiring soon, so make sure you pay attention there. And then also ask them if this the $10,000 deduction helps you out at all with the taxation.
That's so wild to me. Yeah. That's such, like, that $800 a month in interest. They just...
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a capped at 10,000, right? So I guess to your point, I guess you don't have to have one that that's that expensive. But hey, maybe you got a Bugatti. I don't know.
Crazy.
Myth number 6: I can skip itemizing and still get a huge deduction for giving to charity. Again, we talked about the fact that because the deduction's so high, most people don't itemize. So what's this all about?
Well, there is an above line deduction now. It's not big. It's $2,000 for a married couple, $1,000 for single. So yeah, I mean, you could donate $2,000 to charity and make it an above line contribution. But if you're thinking that I'm going to go out and donate 50 grand to, the Catholic school of my choice, or, the University of Utah Hospital, whatever it may be out here, and you're going to be able to put that on top of your standard deductions, and it's not going to happen.
I mean, if you're doing that much, you're probably itemizing, because you probably are over the threshold, right? But for most of us, to your point a minute ago, at 40, almost up to 40 grand, between 31 and 40 grand, depending on your age and your income, we're probably not going to get there. So if you're still charitable minded, at least this does give you an option. You can say, hey, take another 2,000 off because the wife and I want to donate to our church down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So takeaways, thoughts as a planner. You've been digesting the BBB. Like I said, we just kind of made this a true or false, kind of a myth little thing. Yeah. But what's your general takeaways on the plan or on the bill itself?
I mean, it seems there's a lot of working pieces to it. There are some benefits to business owners, for sure. Unfortunately, in our business, we don't get a ton of the benefit because we're service related. But I think that the things that are talked about that affect retirees for the most part, they're fairly minimal. They're easy to understand. They're easy for us to come up with a plan on. Mm-hmm. But this was kind of expected. We didn't expect like huge changes in tax law the second time around for Trump. We extended him to really push out and extend out current tax law from a bracketing perspective.
Right.
We expected standard deductions to increase a little bit. And we expected some of the other minor changes to happen that happened, but it wasn't earth shattering for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, I think, we all knew he was part of what he was going to run on, obviously, because it was what was passed under the TCJA was under his first administration. So therefore they were probably going to, try to extend that, which I think most people were looking forward to. And that is probably the biggest takeaway from most things is that, especially if you're getting close to retirement, if you're in the 22% tax bracket, well, you're probably going to stay there, right? Which is good. You would have jumped up to 25, I think, if you were in 22. And if you were in the 24, you'd have jumped to 28. That'd have been pretty sizable. So,
and you're talking thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that respect, I think it made things a little bit easier, and we'll see what happens. I know there's a lot of conversation about obviously what it's going to do to the debt. That's where the tariff thing comes in, and that's a whole nother show for another day as to whether or not how that'll shake out. But for the topic of today, if you got questions on how the big, beautiful bill is going to affect your planning scenarios, your taxation, and again, a lot of this is around taxation, which is a huge part of your retirement strategy, reach out to Sean and his team, get onto the calendar and have a chat. To see what, if anything, and how it might affect you, and how to be as efficient as possible with some of those changes that are there. Links are in the show descriptions down below so that you can connect and get onto the calendar with Sean and have a conversation. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. So we'll see you next time, my friend. Thanks for breaking it down.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Always appreciate your time here on the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us, and we'll catch you later on Retirement Elevator.
This video has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this video is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this video is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this video. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group LLC and Elevated Capital Advisors LLC. Mark Killian and Third Wheel Media LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this video.